podcasts, discussion. Hopefully this will allow us to stay on focus more. Oftentimes our meetings run a little long because we like to talk and because we're social. So let me know when we're up and running.
You're good.
Okay. For the benefit of the live stream, we're going to do this until they let us in, and then we'll move indoors. I'm going to just give you guys a quick rundown of a few announcements. But first I want to emphasize something about the Harwood Community Association, which is from our bylaws, which is very relevant to the discussion we'll be having in a little bit. The Harwood Community Association is an independent, resident-based group that provides an open forum for discussion and development of Harwood community issues and neighborhood improvement initiatives. The Harwood Community Association's purpose is to strengthen the Harwood community by providing leadership, supporting and encouraging resident-led projects aimed at improving the community, providing resources, information, building partnerships, and promoting intergenerational collaboration to strengthen Harwood. Through these efforts, the HCA aspires to make Harwood a vibrant, safe, socially connected, green community in which all residents enjoy a high quality of life. So that informs everything we do, and that's particularly relevant today because we'll be a little later on in the meeting talking about some modifications that we intend to make to the bylaws based on some things we've learned over the last few years. Jumping to the announcements, I think once we get inside, Savannah will be running things, but just because of the format, I think we'll just kind of stick with as little changes as possible. Chris, you want to say a couple quick words about where we are financially?
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Christian Danville. I'm the treasurer for the Harwood Association. Roy. Well, the state of the neighborhood is not bad. Some pretty good news. We've actually finally completed our 501c3 process. Well, actually, yes, we've completed. Federally, we are recognized as a nonprofit community association. We are generally like tax registered with the state of Maryland. We are still working on having Maryland recognize the 501c3. That's more of an aside. The big part of it has been done, and we also now have a bank account for the sake of that's actually a huge endeavor that's taken the better part of the last 2 years, and no small part thanks to Savannah, and truly no small part to this man right here next to me. We now have a PNC bank account, my account that they're right there. And it is now linked through PayPal, and that will be the primary medium through which we make all our financial do all our financial activity, which includes and is not limited to collecting dues. We've already started getting a fair amount of dues. We've gotten a little over $200, which is already like 20 households. So thank you for those of you who have already paid your dues. That was like super quick and awesome because we are kind of strapped because we usually float so much cash.
I do have a QR code. I'll put it out as soon as we get inside. It'll be on the table for those of you who want to pay. The PayPal link does also allow credit card payments, and I think Venmo as well. But we'll put that out when we get inside if you want to do it tonight. And we do accept donations larger than $10. And the other thing about PayPal is you can also, as a donation, set up recurring if you want to do a monthly or an annual.
Or anything, or really in any fashion that you want. Reminder that dues are not per person, they are per household. So they are per house number within the limits of Harwood Association. So if like 4 of you are roommates here, you do not owe us $40, you owe us $10. Or you don't owe us anything, but like if you want to vote, please give us $10. I think that's everything I have for you.
Yeah, we'll probably do like a more formal membership donation drive soon, but this all happened within the last couple weeks. So
Yeah, and we have posted a link to the PayPal on the WhatsApp group. We're going to be doing that again for those of you who might have missed it. And of course, please make sure that if you prefer the QR code to do it here where you're from.
the link on the website is also good.
Yes. Questions? Anything? Nope. Yes. Cool.
A couple other quick announcements. One, many of you will have noticed the sandwich boards. We made half a dozen sandwich boards thanks to a grant, and those are out. Those are not just for Harwood Community Association, those are for the neighborhood. So if you have an announcement, you're doing a yard sale, you got a gig coming up, there's a nearby event you think people should know about, feel free to post it on the sandwich boards. We will keep an eye on them. They are heavy, so if one has fallen over, be careful trying to lift it up. It's just a bunch of plywood and 2x4s, so don't like pinch your fingers or anything. Just be careful. The other big thing, the 29th Street Community Center renovations are pretty much done, and they should be up and running by the end of this month, which is really exciting.
We hope all of you RSVP. You can go to our site. I have the flyer, and we are asking everyone to RSVP so we know how many people are going to come. But it's an exciting time. We have some very exciting things that have happened to the center that will truly encapsulate not only Harwood but the entire Charles Village area. So.
And we'll give the dates for that event. But the other thing is that means that once they are open, we can start doing our meetings up there again. Some of you who are newer, who have only been coming to meetings this year and late last year, haven't even had the opportunity to see the inside of the 29th Street Community Center. It's a great space, and with renovations, even better. So we're just really excited. It really lends itself to the style of meeting we have. It's a good conversation space. No traffic.
No buses usually.
But yeah, so we will most likely be having our next meeting on October 6th over there, which is also going to be their first day of programming, I believe. So big and exciting.
And in time for the potluck on November 3rd.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And they have like
Get to go to
gym
the
classes and
area.
yoga
We have a
and
brand
stuff.
new
You should check it
catering
out.
kitchen.
Well, they've had.
Kitchen.
Maybe I don't know.
That's
What's
going to
coming
be
up?
excellent for
Check it out.
anyone who wants to host. The only problem is we are not allowed to have alcohol because we are attached to a city school. Even though city school does not have priority on us, the attachment makes that we are a educational center as the city tells us, and so you cannot have alcohol. So you can have wonderful catered meals there that you guys can fix and invite people to and have a great time. So we're looking forward to everybody. I hate to interrupt you,
No.
but I want everyone to know. So please RSVP again. I have the flyer on my phone. I can send it to you all, or Isaac has it. But please think about it. It is on from 4 to 5 p.m. on the 27th.
September 27th, 4 to 6 p.m. Yeah, I'll post a link and I'll circulate the flyer as well.
They're unlikely to check the Stanley Cup.
Another issue we are still waiting on is the date for our final dumpster day. As soon as we can, we will be doing that. There's been an odd delay where the city decided that Harwood East was actually still part of Better Waverly, and they said we couldn't schedule the dumpster there. And so, after some discussion and some assistance by Odette, the city has recognized that for the past, I don't know, what has it been, 20 years, Harwood East has been.
Oh yeah. I mean, they have been encapsulated with
Yeah.
Harwood.
Harwood East has been part of Harwood. This is the section to the east of Greenmount. They've been
Have to
all the way, yeah.
tee up the game.
And so the city has filed to redraw the boundaries. Surprisingly, they were a bit more ambitious and it looks like our eastern boundary will actually be Loch Raven, which means that there's a section of apartments just past Matthews, south of Exeter Hall, 130 residences that will be added to the Harwood neighborhood if this goes through, which is really exciting.
That's part of the Central Baltimore Partnership and the Charlottesville. That is we've been fighting for things that we would have revitalization for our project, pick up trash, and have traffic. We couldn't put any of it.
It's quite secure. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm just not understanding
Yeah. So
We just gave
So
it a
that-
ton of neighbors.
changing the boundaries extends the reach of the benefits we can provide to people on the other side of Green Mountain, which is why we do this. And so it's really exciting. We will know more and we will provide more as we know. But it's a great new opportunity and a new era for Harwood. Those are the big announcements. Mara is not here. She was going to say a couple quick words about the Harwood Park renovations on 27th, but we can pass that up. It looks like the key is arriving, so we are going to pause and move inside. Stay tuned for part 2.
This disconnect happened. Might be me, I don't know.
No, well, she said something in September. September 3rd. Yeah, but then
Just leave this streaming out here.
for the 3rd.
yeah, but it's alright.
So she what do you mean October? Yeah.
I could have come to your house.
We're gonna move inside, so it's gonna be a second. All right, you're coming with me.
Oh no, I don't mean to.
Well, now you got a whole street named after myself. Now you're famous.
Whether it was free, I don't know actually, but there were classes. They were like gym classes, like who holds your breath.
So how's everybody doing? Yeah, you get like the first person experience of coming to the community meeting. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Oops, excuse me.
Leslie, want one of those guys?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Oh. What is it? The bench all right?
The bench is all right.
Sorry about that. Like there was some sort of information about when we were all getting here. Hey, Lou, how you doing?
a lot going on, so we are just catching up now. You're not listening at all.
Yeah.
You want? I have the.
Oh, yeah, unless we have this is just all right, so everybody, we're gonna get started again because, like we said, we only have so much time. So the next thing we're gonna go over are some upcoming events that we have. One is the Enough Community Info Session, September 24th, 5th through the 7th. Who is that? Is that, would you come, step forward.
Hi, Micah from CBP. I work with Aaron. So we've completed the needs assessment for the Enough grant, and the next on our list is submitting the neighborhood action plan, which will be this Friday at 12 p.m. So the Enough Community Info Session is basically our way of sharing information that we found. So if you work with us on neighborhood walks, if you are a youth provider, that information has also been submitted, and other things from like previous initiatives that CBP has worked with and resubmitted within the grant to kind of focus on the structure of those. So that is September 24th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Area 405. Food is provided. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me. Also, with the Enough grant, we are vetting a Enough Leadership Task Force. So we're going through each community association and asking, if there are two people who want to represent Harwood or Greater Greenmount, please let me know. I'm in the back over there if you need me. And I think that's about it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
Yay! Woo! Yeah, so if you're looking for another opportunity to get involved, but maybe you don't want to be part of the actual board here, that's a good way to do it. And then again, we have the 29th Street Community Center open house on the 27th from 4 to 6. Yvonne will be putting up the information. There's also the Black Wall Street Expo is going to be happening. That's like put on partly through the city and Notre Maison, which owns like a whole bunch of the spaces on 25th. And that's September 27th from 12 to 6. And then there is the Able Street Fair, which, is anybody else vending there? Anybody tabling? Oh, just me. I'll be there for the Dell. And we'll be promoting the goats will be back in the park. And so we'll be promoting that, and then also be promoting our Spooky Tuesday movie night, which I'm the point person for that, and we this year Beyond Video will be is helping us curate it, and the BMA will have an activity, like an fall art activity beforehand as well, and that'll be October 14th. The Able Street Fair is September 28th.
We will circulate minutes with links to all these events, and I'll try to post what I can on the live chat too while we're going.
Yeah. And then again, dumpster day, we'll let you guys know as soon as we can. And then we have talked about doing ghost stories in the garden or in the park, in combination with, we did like a pumpkin smashing in the garden last year, which was really fun. So if anybody has any kind of like, ghost story fun, wants to help us out with that, let me or Isaac know. And then there's the post-Halloween pumpkin smash, which will be in potentially either late October or no, I guess, never mind, early November. And Odette is she not coming anymore?
She said she was going to come late,
Okay.
so she might show up in a little bit.
All right, we'll postpone her then. And then, so items for discussion. We have our bylaw changes, which are voting, and we will be discussing the timeline. So, who's our point person for that? Is that me? It's gonna be.
That was actually supposed to be Emmy. She is under the weather. She recently had some surgery, so I can sort of do some initial conversations. The bylaws conversation is one that we've had off and on throughout this year. Basically, everybody who is on the board now came in within the last 3 years, post-COVID lockdown. And although there have been several people from previous tenures that have remained involved, Yvonne and others have stayed involved, a lot of what we learned was through trial and error. And one of the things that we learned was that we need to follow the bylaws more closely. Another thing we learned is there are things in the bylaws that need to be corrected or adjusted. And so what we've done is we've come up with three things that we wanted to tweak in the bylaws. And because the bylaws also should reflect the fact that we're now a 501c3, we saw this as a good opportunity if we're voting on updating the bylaws, which requires a vote by the community, by full members of the full voting members of the Harwood Community Association. We should also adjust or update some of those other items in the bylaws that are maybe obsolete or maybe could be tweaked a little bit. Just by way of example, the bylaws indicate that meetings have to be held within the boundaries of Harwood, and there is no venue within the boundaries that is adequate to handle this many people, or even a smaller group, really. Similarly, the boundaries of Harwood, as I mentioned outside, will probably have to be updated as well. And so that's something else that will have to be reflected in the bylaws. The way that changes to the bylaws happen is we have to give you 30 days notice before the vote. And before we can post the official wording for the new bylaws, we've had some internal discussion. We just wanted to lay those out for you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just lay out some of those items that we're looking, all of the items that we're looking to change, and just have some conversation to see if we can adjust or whether they make sense, whether there's concerns or pushback or confusion as to why these are relevant and appropriate. And they really fall into three categories. There's one category related to leadership and who is or isn't eligible to be a board member and what that tenure looks like, what the terms look like, things like that. There's one set of adjustments we want to make, or we want to at least discuss, related to what membership is in terms of voting versus non-voting members. And then there are just some general administrative changes that are relatively minor, that I think we can just vote on those as a whole. And again, we're not voting today, but I just wanted to put this out there. I do have some copies of the changes that are posted. I did not print enough for everybody. I also didn't think we would be getting this many people. This is great. We do have a bunch of people online, and for the people online, you can access these through the description on the YouTube page. There are links. And for those of you who have your phones, you can also access it that way. But just a couple, I'm going to do a quick rundown of the general changes. Like I said, they're all pretty minor. We're going to change our name and purpose to reflect the fact that we're a 501c3. We would also like to add a minimum age for voting members of 18. There is no minimum age. We also have an option where if somebody is unable to or does not want to pay the $10 annual membership fee, we can waive that in exchange for volunteer service. The bylaws say 4 hours of volunteer service. 4 hours of volunteer service for $10 worth of membership is unreasonable, so we were going to cut that down to 2 hours, or actually it doesn't even specify. But just show up at the dumpster day and help out for a little bit would probably satisfy that. But just giving people an option of providing support, I think, is in keeping with the spirit of the community association. Rather than explicitly requiring cash, we can find other ways that people can become part of it. Some other minor things, the president, in cases where somebody is volunteering or somebody is unable to volunteer, perhaps somebody has a disability that would prohibit them, and their income restricted, they can just write a letter to the president, and the president can just say, fine, it's not a big deal. And so it says the president shall have the sole authority to grant a waiver. We wanted to change that to discretion because I think authority is too strong of a word. Again, this is a community. We're all in this together. Remove the location requirement so that we can have meetings outside of the boundaries of Harwood. We still think it's very important that we're close, that we're accessible. That's why we've always used either this location, 29th Street, or the brewery. 29th Street is probably the most convenient for most people, but we also are very mindful that, you know, anytime the option comes to have something that is more convenient, we want to take it. But accessibility is prime. We just want to change that wording. The other thing is the bylaws specify that we can skip July and December meetings, which we haven't been doing. We can skip up to 2 meetings a year, and we can figure out which ones those are based on what seems appropriate rather than specifying the specific months. Like I said, a lot of these are very minor, and that's why I just want to give you the rundown. If something jumps out at you, though, please raise your hand, ask a question. This is boring, but I just want to make sure that we are being as transparent as possible with everybody. There's also specific requirements about posting. Notification includes notifying on nextdoor.com, and nextdoor.com is a cesspool at this point, and like taking that out. We have very, I think, good and reliable channels of communication with the sandwich boards that actually expands. Not everybody is on Facebook, not everybody is on the WhatsApp chat, not everybody reads their emails. We want to maximize the number of people that are aware of these changes, of anything we're doing, but we don't feel that we have to be obligated to use nextdoor.com to do that. There's also a mention of a conflict of interest policy. It says that we adhere to a conflict of interest policy, but we don't actually have one listed, so we're going to borrow one probably from one of our neighboring community associations that serves an equivalent purpose. And then there's one other item which defines the relationship between the Harwood Community Association and the Harwood Community Garden. The Harwood Community Garden was founded by the Community Association, by people within the Community Association, but the link between them has never been explicit. And so we just wanted to put some language in there saying that the Harwood Community Garden is both part of the Community Association, but they generate their own money, they're responsible for their own money. If they get grants through our status as a 501c3 that are using our bank account, our treasurer has supervision over those funds, of course, but we don't use community association funds to pay for the garden, and the garden doesn't give the community association their money. So we're sort of part of the same institution, but we keep our funding streams separate. I'm going to read off the language that we came up with. It's just a couple sentences.
Do you want me to pass them?
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's about 10 copies of each. This is Amendment 1. This is just the general administrative changes. So I'm just going to read this off really quickly. The Harwood Community Garden is a volunteer-run public garden founded by the Harwood Community Association in 2017, occupying 3 adjacent vacant lots spanning 451, 453, and 455 Whitridge Avenue. The garden operates as the HCA board shall designate at least 1 board member to serve as a formal HCA community garden liaison. HCA garden managers, volunteer coordinators, volunteers, beneficiaries are not required. People who work in the garden are not required to be members of the HCA. The Harwood Community Garden will be maintained with funding sources attributable to the community garden for the purpose of the community garden and its activities. Those funding sources shall not come from membership dues or general donations to the Harwood Community Association by its members unless expressly approved by the board of directors for the HCA. The treasurer shall have supervision over all receipt and dispensation of funds related to the garden that happens via the official HCA bank account. and volunteers of the Harwood Community Garden shall prepare a quarterly financial report and submit it to the treasurer of the Harwood Community Association. And the reason why I want to put this in there, and I know this is dry, I know it's a little boring, is that because we're now a 501c3, there are grants that we will be pursuing as a community association, and this also makes the garden eligible to pursue grants as well. We want to make sure that the garden can pursue grants. We also want to make sure that when we pursue grants, we can talk about the garden as our extension, as a public benefit for health, for community, for clean living, for fresh vegetables, all those things. But at the same time, we don't want the garden to crash and burn separately. We want to be able to maintain some level of oversight and accountability between the two groups. We don't have to make us all one group, but there's a lot of overlap anyway. So all of those together are that's just going to be a single slate, yes or no for the whole thing. Are there any questions, concerns about those items? Again, I apologize, I know it's dry, and I know that you're used to the more exciting meetings that we try to usually have.
I'll try to be super quick about this. I'm just wondering about one language tweak in the community garden section, because it says, representation of funds related to the garden that happens via the official HTA bank account. I'm just wondering if that language implies that there might be funds that happen a different way, and I just wanted to tweak that language to make it clear that it's multiple way of funds.
There are, a lot of the grants are reimbursement grants. So people who work in the garden, buy the stuff, submit the receipts, get repaid, and it never touches our bank account. And so that's why we don't even want to have to worry about that. But again, this is not the final language. If you think you can tweak it, great. Just make a note of it. Talk to me later.
Also, really quickly, I just realized that there were the two other amendments. If you have the first page and Amendment 2 and 3, they're also over here. Sorry about that.
I need Amendment 2. And 3. So Amendment 2 has to do with board composition, term limit changes. This is stuff we learned in the process of being a board. Kind of frustrating, some of it makes sense, but it's not necessarily helpful. 4 items. First of all, we want to have our fiscal year starts July 1st. And so we wanted to have our board tenure begin on July 1st. So if you serve as president from July 1st around to June 30th, when you report on what you did, you report on what you were responsible for. It's a simple thing, it's not a big deal, but it's just something that we thought would be helpful. The other thing we wanted to do is increase the maximum number of board members. Our maximum number is 7, including the 4 main officers. And we've been operating with way more than that for many years, and nobody actually realized it because people don't read the bylaws. So we increased that up to a total of 15 because many hands make light work, and oftentimes people will have one pet project that they'll supervise. The other thing is we have attrition through the year. This year we started 17 board members, and we've lost about half a dozen. Just folks realized they couldn't make the commitment, they weren't able to show up, they had other priorities. And so having a cap of 15 is reasonable, and at the same time it does give us a little bit of wiggle room for the people who drop off over the year. The third thing is increasing term length. Right now we have 1 year board member limits, term limits. I'm sorry, 1 year terms. You get elected for 1 year. We would like to extend that to 2 years. A lot of the other community associations do 2 years. There is a learning curve in every position, and I've never felt like I knew what I was doing until at least 6 months into a position. Having a full 2 years means you get to see the full annual cycle as well. So if you miss a starting point for a project and you realize you should have started 3 months earlier, you now know to do that the next year. There's a lot of different reasons, but having a 2-year term rather than a 1 year term also, it's easier. It reduces mid-project turnover. You don't all of a sudden come in to a project that was half finished that somebody else started before you. Your projects are your projects, and you can see them through to the end, or at least you're more likely to. Again, if somebody has a question, thinks this is concerning, we always want to make sure the board is representative. We want to make sure the board is stable, but we don't want the board to be rigid. We don't want people to feel locked out of the community association, locked out of opportunities to participate. And so the other thing we wanted to do is there are term limits.
Okay, just have a quick
Go ahead.
question about the 1 year to 2 year thing.
Yeah.
Does that like preclude, like will there still be an election annually for people who would like to join? Or is it like only every 2 years we're readdressing the board composition?
It would still be every year because there will be drop off and we'll have openings. The other thing is if somebody commits to, let's say, being the treasurer and you get a 2-year term, at the end of the first year you can be like, I can't do this again. That's fine. After the end of 1 year, you can know if you can handle another year or not. And you can voluntarily just be like, I'm going to be done at the end of this year, and then we would have an election for a new treasurer at that point. So our assumption is that there will be elections every year.
Meaning, so we could add language to formalize the need for each elected member to formally set to do the second year, or give them a space where they can choose to officially resign. And then, but that would happen for the election, and it would give everybody enough time and time to hear about openings and also figure out whether or not they want to run for it.
Yeah. And then the last item is term limits. We have term limits for the officers, the treasurer, secretary, president, vice president, and for the other board members. And we thought that although term limits are certainly reasonable to keep these top level positions moving, if somebody wants to be an at-large board member and they want to just keep coming back and doing that, we don't want to discourage that. So we removed term limits for all of the non-officers. So president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary still have term limits. No more than 2 consecutive terms in a position, no more than 6 years in an officer role. Total.
Lifetime.
Right, but if a position is empty, there's language if somebody leaves or if a position can't be filled, there's language where we can work around that. But basically the bottom line is we don't want the board to be the same 4 people over and over and over again.
I just want to say one thing. This is a message from Emmy. She says that it should be noted that Harwood has had the most restrictive policies re-board terms and term limits compared to our neighboring associations. So the changes would bring us closer in line with our peers.
Yeah. And Emmy, like I said, she couldn't be here. She did yeoman's work on this. She read all of the bylaws for all of the other community associations in our area and really tried to find like the measured ground between all of them that would make sense for us. So that would be the second set of items we would vote on. Again, we will have more specific language next month, the official language.
So since the transient term limits are going away for non-officer board positions,
Yeah.
Are there policies for board removal, like if someone is
Yeah.
just not pulling their weight?
Yeah, there are. And I mean, technically, if you miss 3 meetings in a row and you're a board member without notice, that's grounds for removal. We haven't pushed that because this has been a crazy year. And we understand that like everybody's lives are weird right now. We honestly, we haven't really pushed hard on anything in the bylaws basically for that reason, because things have been kind of crazy for quite a while. And this actually connects to the third set of amendments. But yeah, we really have not been sticklers. The thing is now that we are a 501c3, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard in terms of accountability and responsibility. And so we are going to have to start adhering to these policies because these policies are there oftentimes for very good reasons that protect us, but also they protect the community association from the board hijacking things. They keep us accountable to the community. Any other questions or comments?
Two things, two very good points. Ballot 3, question 5, says that the amendment is to change board members to elected individuals. It says I can't serve in office positions for no more than 5 years. Did you already say
That was, I fixed that, it's 6 years.
6 years now?
Yeah, that was I saw that after I emailed that to you and fixed it. It is 6 years now.
And then the other one, oh, right, to clarify, and maybe I put language that does so, to clarify whether or not elections are for, in January, December, or January, are for people to take office in July?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, and this was mentioned, it doesn't need to be specified. Our elections happen on our annual meeting. Annual meeting is usually either December or January, but this gives the new people a chance to shadow, to come on board, one of the real challenges we had, I can say for myself and probably comfortably for others, was the transition. When we came in, we didn't know what we were doing, and we really could have had a much easier time if we had had a way of transitioning more smoothly, having people show us this is where this is who these people are, this is how you do this. And so having a period between when the elections happen and when the new board takes office, it will make life easier.
It definitely allows for a lot of troubleshooting. In my case, I can speak as a treasurer. The last 2 treasurers are actually people who hopped off their terms due to them moving out of Baltimore. And so each time it created a weird kind of bottleneck, like passwords, things, just information out of people. People move, they go far away, they have different lives and do things. The treasurer from not the last one before moved, I think, to Oregon. And so that even puts like a difference in time zones and whatnot. And so it really does allow us for a lot more flexibility to kind of offset when you take office. And trust me, again, as the 3rd person that took over and consecutive happening of this, it really is helpful. But I do encourage that if you do step into something and you get elected, that you do use those 6 months to gather as much information as you can.
The last item, I saved it for last because it may be the most contentious. I don't want to get into this too deeply, but I do want to flag this. One of the things that we have done in the past is we have had, so Harwood is, as I read, a resident-based community organization. And our policy has, on paper, always been to be a voting member, you have to be a resident. That has not been enforced, and in fact, last December when we voted, we were very unorganized. We didn't realize that as many people were going to show up and as many people were going to vote. We didn't check to see who was in good standing or who wasn't, who was a resident. It was sloppy, and it shouldn't have been. We intend to be better prepared this time around. But one of the things is this issue of voting members versus non-voting members. People who have an interest in the community, as the bylaws state, can be non-voting members. So they don't vote for officers and they don't vote for bylaws changes.
Or major projects.
Or major projects, to avoid changing this from a resident organization to an organization, and I mean, no offense, Roy and Dave, you guys have a local business, but the question is, what stake should local business owners, landlords, and other organizations who are active, who have an interest in Harwood, a very, very, oftentimes very deeply vested interest in Harwood, what level of engagement should they have? And this is particularly important because, as I think you all have seen on Greenmount, there's development happening on Greenmount. I think we're moving to a new stage of activity where we're going to see a lot more businesses engaged, or a lot more businesses opening on Greenmount, and then also with the expansion of the boundaries of Harwood, that actually brings a couple new businesses into our boundaries. So the question is, ultimately, what is our stance towards voting versus non-voting members? Do we retain this resident-oriented, you have to live here to be a voting member, or do we look for ways to open that up? And we have laid out sort of 3 options, very simple, one of which is do nothing. And it's, we remain as we were on paper. Residents vote, non-residents don't vote. The second option is anybody that has an interest in Harwood, businesses, churches, community organizations, landlords that own properties could become voting members, which is also, one approach. And then the third approach would be to sort of try to take that second approach and narrow it a bit, where a business can designate a specific individual who is responsible for being their representative, so they can't just send somebody different for every meeting, and that person would have to come to the meetings and would be expected to participate, so that you don't have people just showing up blind every month just to represent the interests of that business, and to not really engage with the community. These are the 3 options that we came up with, we talked about.
What does that third option do for voting?
The third option, that there would be a single designated person that would be the member that acts on behalf of that business or that interest. But those are the 3 options we came up with. We'd love to hear other thoughts.
Are we including like a due structure along with that, possibly, or?
Well, so we've had, there are businesses that have been paying dues. $100 business dues was what I was told last year. But then when I was doing some updating because of the new donation package, when I was online, in one place it said $30 was the business dues. So it hasn't been consistent. It is not enumerated anywhere in the bylaws. So that's another thing that needs to be clarified. And we don't necessarily have to have we don't have to hash this out today, but we do want to be able to present a slate of options that reflect the interests and needs of the community. Any comments, thoughts, observations?
I'm just curious what the neighborhood associations are doing in regards to that, since we looked into the bylaws.
I did ask Emil from Able.
The Able Improvement Association only gives voting rights to residents in our neighborhood, so we don't have any kind of voting for business owners.
Or landlords either.
Go ahead.
I don't know about voting rights, but I know that the CBCA includes business owners as members to the extent that when they were seeking new board members this year, which we were doing a few months ago, they also tried to get local business owners to join the organization, even though they didn't necessarily live in the neighborhood. And for example, Diana Emerson, who runs Greater William Street, is on the board of CBCA, even though she doesn't live in CBCA, she lives up York Road. So they include businesses.
They also have a GHU representative who attends their meetings too.
I want to, Yvonne, and I'm going to jump to you. Yvonne, you have more history with this organization than most of us. Do you have thoughts or comments you want to make?
I think I have no objections to businesses being involved. I think we have a clear-cut methodology in which to deal with them, because some of their interests may not convey to the benefit of the community, and they are getting information that could be detrimental to the community in terms of how they handle their businesses. So my concern is that when you make any of these decisions, that you keep that in order, because you could wind up costing your community. We like the drug things on Green Avenue. We had them come to the meetings
because we wanted to be included in some of the processes to make sure the community understood. And what happened was they came to the meetings and they redeveloped their design to actually leave the community out of what happened.
So were these dispensaries?
Yes.
So the dispensaries came to the meetings, and then based on coming to the meetings, they redesigned a business plan to leave us out.
Yes.
Okay.
And therefore, we have 3 dispensaries now.
How would they do that?
Because it works in their favor. We don't want the traffic. We don't want, what happens in most dispensaries is that people come there for treatment, but the drug dealers are waiting for them around.
Treatment is different than dispensary, so.
I understand, but I'm saying all of it are processes that can be negatively affecting the community. And I think it's important that when you make those decisions, that you are very clear and you know their own business structure, so that you are not only trying to help us incorporate them in some fashion, but also to make sure that if their membership is going to wind up affecting the community negatively. And that's my
For the sake of clarity, in this case, there is a nuance between the words dispensary and treatment center. Treatment center provide alternative kind of therapies and like access to different type of medication that can help people or support people through kicking, like either hard drugs or things like that, things like methadone and whatnot. Dispensaries in the classic sense of the term usually means, especially now, marijuana being legal, meaning a distribution center for illegally sold marijuana and things like that, or other things that could be or could become. And so just to be sure that everybody knows the difference between the two.
I don't want to throw over to Odette.
I have a mix of different things happening in the district. So I've got that have a specific business membership dollar amount. They may get voting rights for certain things, like if there was a zoning issue that had to do with that business, they could vote for it. Tuscany Canterbury is one where they have, that's over by the Ambassador restaurant. They have a residential membership, but then they have a few businesses, so they do include them. Hamden is totally different. They have the community council. Businesses are not part of that. And then the merchants have their own own association. They work together. Sometimes they don't work together. So they're separate because they have a lot of separate interests, although they do work together on a lot of different things. So the models are kind of everywhere. I think it makes sense to kind of be flexible and see how things go, right? So if you want to have a separate business association, which I think is a good idea, that could integrate into the Waverly Main Street, because we wanted to bring the boundary down anyway, so that the businesses do have something that's going to be in there, to advocate, and then have just the residences. But it's, I think, still good to have some way of integrating, just so that there's communication and relationship in some way. Whether or not that's a voting membership is a different issue.
Is there any representative of Toki here?
Jeff maybe dialed in, but I don't think he was able to attend in person.
Again, for the sake of transparency and following what Odette said, the owner of Toki, who has been a fairly vocal voice for business owners and new investment in the neighborhood, has recently floated the idea of instead of making Harwood the place where businesses go to vote and decide what they do as a group of businesses or in Harwood, that's to formally form a Harwood business association. And so if anybody is interested in that, I'm not sure anything, if you're interested. If you know other businesses around.
Let me just clarify that if there was a zoning issue on Greenmount Avenue that needed to be addressed, it if we had a separate association for the businesses, it would, at least my process, is that the community would have a say in that.
Right.
And not just the businesses.
Not just the
So let's
businesses.
just be like.
Right,
clear about that.
so a business association would be the vehicle through which the businesses align their thinking and formulate kind of what they would like to see. That doesn't mean that they would vote on our behalf for these things. We would, as an organization, have our own voice and our own vote. It would just be a place, and instead of taking up our hour to discuss these things, they'd have their ability to do that on their own, and then come here and present it to us for us to vote on, and have our opinion. And
Well, and
That's one version.
yeah,
Sure.
and that's a good point in terms of the, again, just looking at what some of the others do. In the case of Hamden, for instance, and Remington has a separate group. They're not really organized as a business association, but they're getting there. But any like zoning things, any new business coming in always comes before the resident association as well, just as a way to have that partnership and relationship. So, but there could be ways to joint market that the businesses can work on together, which is what we want to do on Waverly Main Street. So, you know, it's really up to you all how you want to do it.
And just to say, if you're interested in that, somebody who's talking about that right now is Jeff, the owner of Toki. So
I'm wondering if there's a way to, incentivize and encourage businesses to be part of the dialogue or feel like they have a stake in the community, in certain decisions that apply to them, whether it's through a business association or something else, without necessarily giving them a vote like, a resident might have. And also a way for that dialogue and communication to happen without giving businesses access to information that might allow them to sort of undermine the, community's desires or goals, whether that's maybe whenever there's a new business approaching them about an MOU or something like that, or even like something like it's like a equivalent of like a public comment period, right? Where there's something that might impact businesses, they get X number of days to write and give their feedback, even if they don't necessarily get to vote, and that feedback gets reflected on.
I do think it depends on what it is, because if, let's say, it's something on Guilford Avenue, there's no businesses there, right? But maybe you want to have businesses invited to thinking about Harwood Park, because maybe there could be a sponsorship there, right? So I think it kind of depends on what the it is.
With about 15 minutes left, are we gonna?
Yeah, just had a quick question, kind of picking off of what Emma said. For the other community associations, like, how much legal jurisdiction for stuff like, there was that group that came to us that we created an MOU, or we have an MOU with that, the deli. How much of that is like we have legal jurisdiction on that stuff to be like, hey, we want this is a must versus like a potential.
Can I give an example? Just and anybody who's a lawyer could also weigh in. We have an MOU with a new organization that is opening a therapy facility. They will not be dispensing pharmaceuticals out of the location. They will not have inpatient treatment, and they will not be a primary care provider. They're just there to do therapy sessions. And our MOU says they won't dispense drugs, with the exception of having Narcan on hand, but they won't dispense any pharmaceuticals. They won't act as a pharmacy. They won't have a primary care provider on site, because that's not what they do. And they won't have inpatient residences. The site is too small for that anyway. But, so with those three things, the MOU says changes to any of these three things changes the nature of the business and their relationship to the community, and would represent essentially a nullification of this agreement. What happens if that happens? Because I'm not even clear on
Sure.
what
So
happens
just
if
to
they
be
violate.
clear, MOU is a memorandum of understanding between parties. And in this case, with what we asked to do a memorandum of understanding with them because they asked for a conditional use, okay? So it was a zoning matter that they have to get permission from the zoning board to do this what's called a conditional use. So they needed permission to do it. And the whole goal of having these conditional uses is to allow for some flexibility, but also conversation with the community. And so if they violate that, and that was written into, or will be, we haven't had the hearing yet. But once the hearing is in place, then the zoning board, we would say, we approve it because we came up with this memorandum of understanding. And then if there is any violations of that memorandum of understanding, it's written into their zoning that they have to comply with this document. And if there are infractions of the, like they end up doing, residential facility or whatever, without saying anything to us, then we can go to the zoning board and say they violated their MOU, and the zoning board could say, yeah, they totally did, and take away their conditional use, which means that they cannot operate. Okay? So the legal items that we have are through the conditional use and zoning. Like if somebody asked me for a zoning change, we'd come here, we'd do the community process, and we would put conditions on it. And then the other piece is the liquor board. So if we had like a new restaurant or something move in and we wanted to, like with Peabody Heights, they have a memorandum of understanding with the community. Able, I think, I'm not sure Harwood, just Able, but I think both actually.
We have one with Mimi's.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so if they violate that, then their liquor license can get taken away. So we do have leverage in that regard. If we didn't have zoning or liquor board or anything like that, you could do an MOU with anybody. It's not really binding. You have to have that kind of leverage to make it binding. I have a bill that we're doing for dollar stores, which would allow the dollar store would be a conditional use, which means we'd have to have that conversation with them as well.
We have two more, and then I do want to make sure we have time for other things. This is dry, I know, and I appreciate your patience, even with the weird start off.
I didn't actually have a comment here. I was pretty much going to say we're running out of time, and given that we're going to have more conversation on this at the next meeting, we're going to present actual finalized language, and they're not voting on this until November 3rd. Hope everyone who has sort of had a lot of questions and comments and thoughts, like there is going to be more time to bring this to the board and discuss it further.
And always feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, always. Mary and then Leslie.
I just have a question. Is a memorandum of understanding required for a transitional house, or they don't need anything? Because there are 3 on my block.
Yep, so that is unfortunately a little bit different. So transitional homes, okay. If somebody wants to bring in a transitional home where there's more than 4 unrelated adults living together, they have to get what's called a reasonable accommodation from the city. And because of fair housing laws, it's very difficult to put any conditions on it. It was my bill last term where we made some changes to the law so that they would still have to comply with the building code and bring everything up to code, because a lot of times they weren't. So we actually are having this conversation about possibly licensing those, so to hold them accountable. We don't have that right now. If they are already associated with a drug treatment center that is licensed, there is supposed to be some accountability, so any complaints or anything that we need to report it to the state. But drug facilities are licensed right now by the state. So we're actually having a hearing about this on Wednesday, and talking a little bit about it internally so that we can, what my concern is, I want to make sure that folks that are there are actually getting the services that they're supposed to be getting, because right now it's like just a Medicaid grab, it's not really treatment. And that's what we're finding across the CD. And that also if they're treated properly, then we'll have good neighbors, right? So That we right now don't have a good answer for that, but we are absolutely working on it. But if there are challenges with the ones that you have on your block, please let me know. I'll give you my card and we can go through the process of what's going on there.
Leslie, is this related to the?
Listen, whatever y'all talk about, all Greek to me. I don't understand these codes. I don't understand what you're talking about. I am here to find out why we don't have, we used to have captains in our blocks where we have any problems. I have a problem with 28th Street people because they put out the garbage, which is, garbage is on Tuesday and recycle is on Thursday. Then they put the garbage out on Friday, which doesn't make, and I got to get out there and fuss with them. I am a 72-year-old. I can't fight anymore because I got sciatica. I'm not gonna get hurt, but I'm sick of them because the rats is taking over the alley. We just had an inspector, his name is Kevin Cherry. He came knocking on my door to find out if he can look in my yard and all that, and that's fine. But we don't have a captain in our block. If we have any problems, I go to him. He goes to someone else. I'm not a complainer, but I hate nastiness. And I'm out in the alley cleaning up somebody else's mess. And I'm tired. It's not fair. I had to tell these young men that came down the street with all these boxes and put it in the alley on a Friday. You don't pick up the garbage till Tuesday. So why does it have to sit in the alley for a whole week before the garbage man comes? And here come the cats tearing up everything. So I want to know, do we have group captains? Because Mr. Miller used to be in the 400 block.
We
Excellent.
had captains for a while. We did.
Yeah, because he was
before COVID.
He was excellent.
Yeah.
He knew me by heart. He come knocking
He's still
on the
my
door
constituent,
and
he's
say,
block captain in another neighborhood.
Yeah,
We can absolutely have a large conversation about reinstating.
yeah. That is something I think we have.
This is-
Yes, we
this
just haven't
is-
had the energy.
That's the word, energy. It all comes down to what do people have time for. If we don't have people knocking down our door to be block captains, you know, everybody that's involved is doing as much as they can.
Yes.
We can't require block captains, but we can ask, we can push to the neighborhood and say, do we need block captains? If we need block captains, y'all gotta be block captains. Because the people on the board, honestly, I mean.
Well, we used to have them, and you still had meetings, but those were the responsible people. So that is no excuse.
We have.
That is no excuse. I'm sick of these people.
Well, we're all volunteers,
Okay,
you know?
but we all, and so it's a block captain. I don't mind being one, but I don't want to be the bad guy in the field. I don't know who to go to after they come to me.
Well, Ms. Leslie, the difference, I guess, I think that we have to make here is to make sure that we find that adequately. I came from a neighborhood where I used to be in the Station North, and I was a block captain for the, what was it, the 1900 block of Guilford. I was a block captain, and then I became the block captain for Latrobe. But block captains are not necessarily, like, the people on the board, they're a lot of the times in a lot of neighborhoods, they're really just like particularly interested in neighbors that have time and want to take it on and want to be the person that Miss Leslie can come to and be like, all right, I'll tell that, or I'll tell Isaac. And so I think it's a larger, it's a larger organizing thing.
But y'all keep giving me excuses.
We gotta know, more so I'm saying we gotta talk to each other.
Who do I go to?
This is not excuses. We are giving the time we have. You
Okay.
can't ask us to give more time than we have.
I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking
saying who else
for
is gonna do
some solution.
311.
Yeah, 311.
Yeah.
311.
I did that too.
Well, that's just people on
They
board.
say,
That's
put you
what-
on the list. No, that is not a solution because they'll say they'll be out in a week. A week turns into a month. Nobody comes.
What we can do, Miss Leslie, is when you have an issue like that, I think it's a good idea, bring it here. What we can actually do, is we can all get together and be like, hey, everybody, tonight, do a 311 for so and so and so. When they get 27 of them, it's better than just Miss Leslie, like, actually just taking your time to. And I think that's a good point. That's a great point. That's a great point.
And put my word in as a community. I want to help the community.
Yeah.
But if I'm not being heard, like I did the other meetings, I won't be back out here. So y'all do whatever you have to do. But I have an issue with garbage in the app. And I got rats. I'm going out there, this rat meet me out there, and I went one way, he went the other way. This is ridiculous. And I got a
As far as DPW community,
Yeah.
liaison Terrence, who does attend the meetings sometimes, and tell
We
him.
can also do we're probably due for a code enforcement block in the neighborhood too.
Well, they
with
used
an
to
officer.
have students, people come around and inspect and make sure every yard and get a $50 fine if your yard is not clean. Them yards in our district is not clean.
Yeah, no, I think it's worth having a walk through, and I'll make sure that I connect with you so that we can plan accordingly, okay?
And to be fair to Ms. Leslie, I will add, specifically to you, that I will add that, us two on the 2700 block, is that my house?
We still have a problem
We're-
with the alley behind.
Well, we're having a larger problem, not just around, we had a dumping thing, we're working on it, it's gotten a little better, but there's a larger problem happening with just the way that garbage is getting picked up, whether it's garbage or recycling. The guys, every now and then it's a weird cycle, they get used to just like pulling the cans at the end, and then they'll do the cans at the end. They won't pick up, people will leave the actual boxes because they don't fit in the cans. The guys won't pick up the boxes, they won't pick up things. They have like, I understand like you're supposed to put your bags in the cans and you're supposed to use the cans, but people don't do that, and then the guys get mad and they don't pick them up, and it's a snowball effect. They shouldn't have to deal with people being responsible, but also they shouldn't be also just leaving trash forever. And so we have to find a happy middle. We as citizens, we as residents have to do our jobs, put things in the cans, break down your boxes, but also the guys need to kind of work with us a little bit. It's gotten kind of bad. On the 300 block of Harwood. We're having that issue too. We're having that issue as an issue. We've done 311. Just to say that, it's multilateral, there's more happening.
To the blocks, so we need to do that anyway, and not just have a code enforcement, because that's DHCD, but also bring the supervisor out to just be like, on a trash day, be like, can't do this.
They're not bad dudes. They're not bad dudes.
No,
They've worked with me a lot. They do a lot. I see them do it.
They're
but,
in an extreme rush to get a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
done, and so we just want to make sure that they take care.
Yeah.
And so, no, I'm happy to do that, so let's make that happen in the next couple of weeks.
I was out there for 3 days. I had a lady who comes and do the cats. Leave garbage, and the rats is eating the cat food. And it's unreal.
No, we don't want to feed the rats, that's for sure.
Oh,
Well, if anybody also would like to help us out with making a block capture program, that is something that we have briefly been able to discuss in previous meetings. We just, none of the people who are currently involved got the time. So, also another moment to be like, oh wait, there's another opportunity I could get involved.
We
We
could also,
would really love the help.
yeah, we could also do a neighbor thing too, on some of the target blocks, to just be like, hey, I'm your councilwoman, why don't you just, here's your trash days, let me know what you need, that kind of stuff too.
But we can definitely discuss at the next board meeting also more ways for community feedback, for people in the community to have their voices heard, because it is hard to, when it's only an hour and a half, once a month for everyone necessarily to have their thoughts heard in full. But anyways, we can discuss it further because we're running out of time.
I just wanted to get my point across.
That's fair. Block captain program probably stopped with COVID, and nobody that's involved now had anything to do with it and knows anything about running it or what would be involved in starting it up, because starting it up also takes more effort than keeping it going. We can talk about it, and we can see what we can do if we can find people that have the energy to spearhead that.
but that means finding neighbors on each and every single block. So if that's you, come and talk to us.
Well, it doesn't always have to be just a block, we could have a street for it. The down street. Yeah. Edinburgh Gardens has a really robust, block captain program. So, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
We
have 3 minutes.
I have a couple of things.
Okay, anything else before we toss to Odette? If you have comments about the bylaws changes, concerns, something you don't like, something you think is being left out, any ethical concerns, whatever, just contact us. All of our information is on the website, or you can message me on WhatsApp. Okay, Odette, over to you.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I know bylaws is kind of boring, but it's like really, really important to get them right. So I appreciate the detail that you have. I just have a couple of things. One is, I'm sure you've seen the hubbub around Sisson Street, the convenience center, transfer station, whatever you want to call it. Don't call it a dump because it's not a dump. But the latest news is that the mayor is putting together a task force to take a more holistic and deeper look at it. I don't know if you heard, but there was a proposal to move it to closer to the to Falls Road. This is not a new conversation. We've been having this conversation for about 5 years to figure out if we move it and where. But we want to take a much deeper look. So if you know, we're still working out, you know, how many neighborhoods will be invited to attend, but there's also going to be other public meetings. So if you have thoughts about how important the Sisson Street Convenience Center is to you, it's very important to me. Then, you know, and what you'd like to see. The big criteria is we're not going to relocate it in a black neighborhood, and it really needs to be close by. So we're trying to figure out what makes sense, or keep it there. But, you know, the workers also need good facilities. So just, you know, stay tuned for that.
Is the bill to sell the land still moving ahead?
No, it's not moving ahead until the task force is done.
Okay, that's a commitment, it's gonna be withdrawn?
It's not going to be withdrawn, it's just not going to be dealt with, it's not going to go forward.
Okay.
Right, it's not going to be, we don't, everything's on hold, okay? Yeah. So the other thing is I'd like to propose, and you can decide this at your next meeting, but I've already put it in motion, unfortunately, or fortunately. The Harwood has been sort of adopting the east side of Greenmount, right? So, and calling it East Harwood. And we had an issue with wanting to do a dumpster day there, but the city was like, no, this is better Waverly. You can't have a dumpster because they have dumpsters. So I went ahead and just changed the boundaries. So, sorry.
I'm a real boy now.
And so the map will look a little different, but I want to just make sure, like, if I totally screwed this up, you need to tell me, okay? Right now, Better Waverly's boundaries would go to Exeter Hall, okay? And so south of Exeter Hall would be Harwood, up to Loch Raven. So that industrial property there, the Olds Envelope, all 25th would also be part of Harwood. And that is important to me because it's kind of been a no person's land for a while in terms of who's responsible for what. Carroll Fuel has moved their offices, so they're no longer there, and there's some new people, you know, moving in. So, and, you know, Oak Hill Properties, the affordable housing folks there, I think would be great neighbors to have included in the work that's going on here. So I'm hopeful that you all are okay with this. And what will happen is that the city maps in the next few months would change so that it would reflect that boundary change. Again, I have confidence in this organization to be able to, you know, do that. You've already been taking on things up to 27th and Matthews anyway. And there's a lot of really positive things happening. So I think that this might be a good opportunity. Yes.
What about CBCBD? Could they expand to East Harwood?
Yeah, so that's a different process because
they've been trying to do it, but
yeah, I know.
They're changing the boundaries.
They have, in order to change the benefit benefits district boundaries, everybody has to revote again for the benefits district. Everybody, not just the new property owners.
Okay.
So once every 4 years it's reauthorized, and I think if we're gonna do that, we should do it during reauthorization.
Okay.
So, and I'm all for it as long as, everybody, but all of the new people that would be absorbed would have to also vote because they get taxed, so.
Just so that folks know, currently the Charles Village Community Benefits District stops at Greenmount.
Right.
Those are like our green trash cans.
Right, exactly.
Those are the guys who
And
sweep
I have
our streets.
business cards here that have a map on them, and you'll see where it says Better Waverly, that would change in the future. Yes?
Regarding the Sisson Street issue, there's been a lot of hand-wringing about, where it's gonna go and conversations, and just, and this would be sort of a completely kind of separate project or initiative. I feel like there would be a lot less hand-wringing if DPW did regular scheduled bulk trash pickup, because then people wouldn't be so dependent on Sisson Street being convenient, and it could really be just for, DPW to use as a transfer station and what have you, because right now, especially if you don't have a car, and I don't have a car, I don't want a car. I love being able to walk and use public transit and whatever. I don't want to have a car just specifically to take, an old mattress, somewhere. So if that's like a possible project to get a sort of
So
regular.
part of what this task force is going to do is that's actually one of the options, is looking at, can we do better about our neighborhood type of drop-offs, like more dumpster days, which is going to be hard because we don't have a lot of CDL drivers, but something like that, more dumpster days. Why are we limited to 4 yard bags? Like, can't you just take up all the yard bags, and maybe doing, some of you may not have been here, but during COVID, we had stations in each council district where you could bring your, because we didn't have recycling, so where you could bring your recycling. Ours was at Mervo, but I also had like 2 others that were nearby me and our district, and that seemed to work. So maybe something like, so what this task force is going to do is not just look at whether we move this thing, but also like if we just eliminate it, what are the other things that we need to do? It's going to be difficult because it is very popular. There's lots of, but it could be that there's a lot of, there's reasons for it because we don't have bulk trash like we used to. So that's what the task force is going to be working on, all of that.
Right. I mean, ideally to me, it would be maybe every, couple of months, however frequently DPW could do it, where you could just put bulk trash out with your regular trash and they would come pick it up. You wouldn't have to take it anywhere, even to a dumpster 2 blocks away.
Right.
So I couldn't take a big mattress by myself, even 2 blocks away. Maybe I could take it out of my house, but that's
Now you have to call and make an appointment for bulk trash, and sometimes it's 6 months away. And so those are the kinds of things that we're going to be studying with this task force, because this brings up a lot more other questions around how we're serving our residents and what are the capacity needs for DPW and all of that. So I'm glad you brought that up so I can clarify. So yeah.
Quick last one.
Sure.
About the boundary. Does the new boundary give us the talk or engage in neighborhood centered talk with the milk plant?
Which plant?
The milk plant? No.
Yes, because it's right there on Block Road.
Is it, but it's not part of our.
It's not
No.
inside the boundary, but it's something you can still have a conversation with. And I will say that there's a lot of activity happening on 25th Street. We're getting, the street has been resurfaced and there's already a planned streetscaping project, so that way you're involved with it as well.
Isn't that Trump's district?
Gulfstream, Homestead, Montebello has been overlapping.
Street. So, yes, there are boundaries over there, and Mark Washington, excellent.
Yeah.
He goes through
Lock
the
Raven
alley.
is the boundary, and so
He kept the alleys clean.
you would be working with the Gulfstream Homestead Montebello community on stuff like around 20th Street, which I think is good. I think that, you have more opportunities there. So I know you're like, oh my gosh, we have to do more at the bigger boundary, but it's actually not that many more business people because
About 130 households.
yeah, on that side, because there's more on the other side. And the others are those industrial buildings mostly that really keep to themselves, unless there's a dumping issue, you normally don't hear from them.
No, it's a good thing. More numbers is a good thing.
But I do think that Lock Raven could use some TLC, and and then there's also those, industrial businesses like Old Envelope and others could be a part of the work that you're doing, so.
If we can get more volunteers, we can do more. That's what it all comes down to.
Sure.
And they're being sponsors.
Yeah, they could be sponsors, I think, so I appreciate that you're at least interested in considering that.
No, we've been discussing it before, like that section, at least those apartments.
Mhm.
It was, because they are underserved.
They're great, I mean, but there's also a potential development project there, where they're gonna get, the owner's gonna get low-income housing tax credits to do even more, which would be great.
We're gonna wrap it up.
They're here to clean, so.
Abel wants to say a couple quick words, but I would say we're sort of officially closed. We're at the QR code for dues. You can just put your address in there and your name, and we'll make sure you're having the list as you go out. Also, there's some posters here if you want them, pro-immigrant,
For resources.
Hey, Isaac, Isaac, can I have the floor?
Yeah, go ahead.
And do I have permission to introduce the vote on the petition? It's the one, it's the same as I pitched last month.
Thanks so much.
Have a good
I think that's going to be too much.
Okay, let me just make an announcement. Hey, everyone, could I have your attention, please?
Just one last announcement.
Heads up! Hey, everyone, everyone, please. I'm on the agenda. Hey, so I've just spoken with Isaac. I was supposed to be on the agenda today, but we have run way over. So I want to give up my time and just tell you, I want to bring this up at your meeting next month. So you'll hear me always make a commercial for Let's Be More, the Baltimore Time Bank. We're meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. And some of you heard me here last month talk about the petition by the Baltimore Abolition Movement against the Johns Hopkins Police Department. This is a really important issue for our community. It's something Harwood cares a lot about. And I wanted to present you the motion to vote on this as an organization. So Abel just voted on this, and we adopted, signed on to this petition as an organization. I would really like Harwood to do this as well. I think it's consistent with your values, but we are out of time, and so I'm going to ask Isaac to send a link to the petition out. I have copies of the petition here if you want to sign on as an individual. And please see me, and then we will bring this up at the meeting next month, which will be the annual joint potluck with the Able Improvement Association. Yes. And we've been doing this together with Harwood for like 10 years now, and we're real pleased to be meeting with you. It's the one time a year that we get together as two associations. So thank you for listening.
So if you're interested in what's happening around all the JHU organizing, please see Abel. He has paperwork and information that you might find interesting.
Show me the envelope. Okay. It'll be on the recording too. That's okay. They got the other ones. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, don't forget that you can always email the Community Association at info@harwoodcommunityassociation.com. Thank you.